Major news for Halo fans. Bonnie Ross has announced her retirement as head of 343 Industries, the studio now in command of Halo. If you frequent this channel, then you know that I've made my discontent with the manner in which Halo has been handled by 343 Industries very clear. I've also often cited the management at 343 as the problem and the cause for a lot of Halo's issues ever since the studio took command of Halo. When the news broke, my gut reaction was one of jubilation. That may seem like quite an odd reaction, celebrating someone losing their job essentially. I do sympathize, especially regarding the family issues. And I'm not just saying that to safeguard myself from viewers who will look unfavorably at my apparent lack of sympathy. I say it because it appears that Bonnie Ross really did try and want Halo to be something special under her wing. In a feature with Bloomberg 7 years ago, the article's linked in the description below, she discussed how there was a feeling at Microsoft that Halo was pretty much done for. And other than a couple of Halo games, it was the end of the franchise. She made the case for Halo. She stated that if she took it over, she wanted to be the George Lucas of it and do things differently. Ever since 343 Industries took over Halo, Halo has faltered in a major fashion with every single game. In fact, its first go at Halo was the Master Chief Collection, what was supposed to be one of the best value gaming packages since the Orange Box. 343 failed tremendously. The game was broken for several years. Only after a last-ditch attempt several years later did the Master Chief Collection play how it should have from the start. But the momentum of what the Master Chief Collection could have been for the Xbox One at a time where it was massively struggling was lost. With Halo 4, 343 did a lot of things right. Visually, it was stellar and still holds up to this day. Its campaign was generally met very positively and excelled in storytelling beyond many of Bungie's own Halo games. But its multiplayer, the key component that determines the longevity of a Halo game, was completely lackluster. 343 seemingly just copied other shooters, namely Call of Duty, stripping away a big chunk of what makes Halo great. Halo 5 did the opposite. 343 delivered an excellent multiplayer component. In doing that, 343 proved that it had immense skill set to do what I believe is much more harder than delivering a good single player component. And it did that by not only going to the roots of Halo, but still managing to modernize it. But it faltered again with a disjointed single player campaign that easily ranks as the worst one in any Halo game. That's 3 strikes considering the lofty standards of Halo, an IP under Bungie that routinely showed the world how to do first-person shooters right. Despite these 3 strikes, owing to the love for all things Halo, Bonnie Ross was afforded one final chance, and with Halo Infinite, there have been failures in almost every facet of that game. Visually, the game was so lackluster, it failed to even come close to matching its own 2018 demo supposed to show off what the Slip Space engine could do. When the game was shown off, its poor graphics became a literal meme. The game was delayed and Bonnie even considered releasing the game a year earlier, albeit piecemeal. To this day, can someone tell me what on earth 343 was even remotely considering releasing now that we are still faced with a shallow multiplayer experience? From broken modes, poor netcode, to startlingly bare bones content for a live service game that even falls short of 343's previous efforts. Delayed features, broken promises, and more. I could go on and on about how 343 have failed with Halo Infinite. But surely, it's Bonnie Ross who shoulders the blame. Why shouldn't she? When Cyberpunk 2077 failed to live up to expectations, many people took issues with the fact that developers were blamed and not the management. Vicarious liability is a thing for a reason. Bonnie Ross has been an absentee landlord ever since the game was released. We have heard hardly anything from her, and the Halo community looks to Joseph Staten to right all the wrongs of the Halo Infinite ship. Bonnie wanted to do things differently, but she did them in a manner that resulted in a massive decline for Halo in terms of quality and reception. And people, believe me when I say this, Halo had infinite potential, no pun intended. Where it could have been and where it is now are 2 very different things. So now that Bonnie is gone, where does that leave Halo? Well, potentially in much better hands. Potentially. 343 is now restructuring its leadership completely and is splitting Bonnie's role into 3 parts. Pierre Heinz will become the studio head of 343, whereas Brian Koski will be the general manager and Elizabeth Van Wyck will become business and operations lead. Pierre Heinz is a promising studio head because he has 26 years of experience in the gaming industry with various studios. Mainly, however, he was tasked with fixing the mess that was the Master Chief Collection. And considering what an uphill task that was, major props go to him. The problem with 343 and its extremely heavy reliance on temporary contractors still appears to be an issue, but drastic changes needed in order to effect a positive turn for Halo Infinite, and the leadership is where you start. I think it will be a good couple of years before Halo Infinite ends up being what I consider an appreciable and healthy state for it. It's interesting that Bonnie's role has been split into 3 roles. I hope this new leadership can unify the team and is worthy and capable of handling the mantle of responsibility. What do you think about Bonnie leaving? Must add, I hope her personal family issues aren't that serious, but I am positive about Halo's future now that there's a change of leadership. Do you agree with me? Do you think Bonnie leaving is a good thing, or is Halo in trouble? Do let me know in the comments section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.